In this video I'm going to show you how I fit all my wild camping and hiking gear into this 36 litre Osprey backpack. If you're new here, my name's Roome. I'm currently on a hiking and camping adventure throughout the UK whilst training for my mountain leader course. If you watch to the end of the video, I'll also share some top tips for my sleep setup in the tent to make sure you have a comfy night's sleep whilst you're out in the wild. So the first item that goes into my backpack is a water bladder. Now the reason I put this in first is that because it needs to slide down the back, it helps that the bag's empty beforehand. I like to fill this up to about 3/4 full, not quite to the top, just so that when the bag's got lots of kit in it, it doesn't compress it too much. So that just goes in there. And then what I like to do is take this tube, and on the straps here I've got little loops that I just slide that through so it's easy to access whilst I'm out walking. The next key tip to mention is that for all my kit, I use these compression sacks, which are also waterproof. What I like to do is to separate each type of kit into different bags. So I'll have a compression sack for my sleeping bag, a separate one for my spare dry clothes, a separate one for electronics, one for food, which I tend not to compress, but I like that it's in a waterproof bag just so that I can keep it dry, and then another bag which has my down jacket in. When you're packing the bag, the thing that's really important to think about is weight distribution. So what I like to do is at the bottom of the bag, take your sleeping bag. Now whilst this is quite bulky, it's actually not too heavy comparatively to other items. The water bladder being close to your back also helps keep the balance in there close to your back. So to make sure that fits into this tiny rucksack, I need to compress it down quite small, so I'll do that now. And then the trick to this, if there is a trick, is just to make sure you get that clip done up as soon as you possibly can, and then that's the size that we've got it down to, so that's great. And then now that this is compressed, I can mould the shape of it to fit into my rucksack. The next thing to go on top of that in my bag is my dry clothes. So again, grabbing another one of these dry bags, and I don't need a massive one because I don't take an awful lot of spare clothes with me, just the essentials. So I've got a change of underwear, a thermal top and bottom, so I like to have these in merino wool, and then a spare pair of socks. And two other things that I like to have, particularly in the winter, are this really lightweight merino wool skull cap, very cheap, very effective, that I can wear in bed, and just a buff so that if it's cold I can bring that up over my face instead of pulling the sleeping bag up. What you want to do is try and reduce the condensation inside your sleeping bag, so having a buff can be really helpful so that you can just put this over your face if it's really cold in the winter. Stick that in the top. And then I like to flatten this one out a little bit so that it's a solid base for the things to go on top next. It's a nice small bag again, and it goes. So the next thing to go in is my cooking equipment. And once again, I'm thinking about weight distribution here. So I want the heavy stuff as close to my back as possible to bear the weight centrally so that I can have as much stability as possible when I'm out hiking. So because the cooking equipment is quite heavy, including the gas canister and metal objects, it tends to sit nicely there in the middle of the bag but pushed up towards my back. I have this little very lightweight Tangier kettle, a Vango compact stove, that is very small, and I put that inside a plastic bag that goes inside the kettle to stop it from rattling around and protect these sharp edges within my bag. And also squeezed into the kettle I add this little lighter so that I've got that there ready to light my stove. So you can see that this is just going to squeeze inside here. Then I take one of these fairly small gas stoves, and in addition to this very useful piece of kit that fits onto the bottom of the stove to balance it when you're on uneven ground. Then I put that once again all in a plastic bag inside my bag. The reason for the plastic bag is just sometimes these things can get a bit dirty whilst you're out and about, and I think it's nice to have it all tied up together, so that goes in next. So after my cooking kit, the next piece of kit to go in is my tent. Now, in order to fit this in when I'm tight short on space, what I do is take out the poles and pegs and pack those separately, and I'll show you how. It's a 2-person tent and packs down very small. It's great for this kind of overnight camping trip. So the tent goes in my bag, wraps round my cooking equipment like that to keep it secure in the centre, stop it from wrapping around. And the next thing to go in is my tent poles, and they just go down one side of the outside of the bag. Then the tent pegs, and what I do with these is I put them inside the top pocket of my rucksack on the inside so that they're safe and ready to access easily when I get to camp. Next thing to go in is my roll mat. This is the Thermarest Neoair super light roll mat, and then just packs down really, really small into this little thing. So this goes in the other side of the rucksack to the poles to balance out the weight once again. The other thing that I wanted to point out that is really great about this kind of packing your bag is that when the tent and the cooking kit are in the middle, with this rucksack there is an option to open it from the side here, which means that you can really easily pull items out when you arrive to camp if you want to set up your tent quickly without having to delve through the top of the bag to access that. So again, really helpful. So next thing to go in the bag is my wash bag. As you can see, this is absolutely tiny. All that I have in it is a toothbrush, toothpaste, some suntan lotion, lip balm and contact lenses. So after that, the next thing that goes into the bag is my electronic. I tend to take a little torch to hang up in the tent, a cable to charge my phone, and a battery pack. Also in there I put some spare batteries for my head torch. Once again, that's a waterproof bag, and that just fits in on top there. So after that, key component food. So in this example, I'm just going to show you for one overnight trip, so just food for that. So I would have one of these freeze-dry foods, and that's very easy to eat. You just heat up some hot water with a blender and then put it into this, and then you can eat it straight away. So that's for dinner. And then I've got a similar thing for breakfast. Also for breakfast, I love these Leon's coffee bags. Literally what it says, coffee in a bag, so it's like proper coffee as opposed to instant coffee. And in case I'm feeling the need, I've got a little Horlicks here to send me to sleep at night. And the great thing about these waterproof bags, I would just say again, is that because they're all different colours, it's very easy for me to identify in my bag which bag holds which kit. So I always use this red one for food, I will always use the orange one for electronics, and that just makes it easier to find things. Other thing to go in the food bag is my spork. So that's just a spoon or fork to eat the food with, and some wet wipes. And depending on where I'm going and how long I'm going for, I also put in these water purification tabs. I also put in my titanium mug at this stage. This is a great mug once again because it folds down really small with the handles, and it's really lightweight from Snow Peak. And that tucks in the back over my tent poles and sits on top. It just protects them on the top from anything that might hit them. So packing the bag is all about making it as convenient as possible to access things. So the next thing that goes in is, for me, my down jacket. And then this one always goes in the green waterproof bag, as it's really important to keep that one dry. And again, I'm just going to compress this. Next thing to go in are my waterproofs, right at the top of the bag. So I've got my waterproof trousers. And then this one's ready to be closed up. So in the climate that we have in the UK, I find more often than not I'm reaching for my waterproof jacket as opposed to my waterproof trousers, and that is why I keep my trousers on the inside. And my jacket goes in this outside pocket here, which also has vents on either side, which means that it can dry off. So next I'm thinking about the kit that I want to put right in this top section of the bag for easy access when I'm out and about. I simply just put in my gloves and a hat. Also, in with that, I pop my head torch, some spare batteries for my camera, and this, which is a personal locator beacon. I'll put a link below so you can see what they are, but I really recommend this for safety, especially if you are hiking on your own. And then in addition to that, so it's easily accessible at the top of my bag, I have my first aid kit. One thing I forgot to mention is that on this inner pocket, in here, there is a little red clip that I attach my keys to so that they're safe. I also carry an emergency thermal bag that is very small and is inside my first aid kit, so I really recommend taking one of those. Coming down then to the last pockets at the front, one of the things I really like about this bag is that it has these great pockets that are easy to access. In those, I tend to keep some snacks, so I'm really keen on wine gums, so they always go in. A penknife. Also in those front pockets goes my compass. And I pop in a few extra cereal bars because it's good just to make sure you're prepared. I might squeeze one or two more in the top as well. So with the side pockets, I don't tend to carry a huge amount in them because I've got the water bladder and I've also got chlorine tablets to sterilise more water should I need it. But I do take one of these, which I've spoken about in my other video. Basically it's a poo shovel and you can dig a hole to bury your stuff. Also just make sure that your stuff is really well buried and away from water if you're going to use one. That tucks in that side there. I'll put in an empty water bottle. If for any reason I have a problem with my water bladder, this can be used as an alternative. It's also good for sterilising water. If you're at camp, you can just hold extra water in it. Two further points. I use the OS maps in the UK, they're absolutely brilliant. I'll put a link below. And I tend to keep those again on me, tucked into the waist belt of this, inside a map case, once again so they don't get wet. So this is an Ortlieb map case. These are great things, very recommend having one of those. So those will just be here underneath the waist belt of my rucksack when I'm walking around. I find that's the easiest place to access them. And then if you are somebody who likes to hike with poles, these can just go easily then on the outside of the rucksack. I tend to put this little catch through the handhole here to ensure that if they do come loose, which they sometimes do, that is connected to the bag and it isn't going to fall off the mountainside. So again, what I'm doing is just unstrapping this side strap, putting that through the loop and over the top here, and kicking that shut. Another feature to point out about this bag on the bottom here is that there are these loops again that you can actually put a roll mat on the outside of your bag should you wish to do so. Personally, I prefer not to have things hanging off, so I don't use these and I just tie them up and leave them there. At the beginning of this video, I also promised you a few top tips on my sleeping arrangement in the tent, which I hope will be helpful for you. And my biggest tip that I've learnt whilst doing my mountain leader training is that those compression sacks can be really useful for making your own pillow in the tent, so you don't need to carry something extra. So what I do is put my down jacket and spare clothes into one of those compression sacks and then just tie it up sort of either tightly or loosely depending on how firm you like your pillow, and that is a great pillow to use in the tent. Another top tip for the sleeping arrangement is if you've got any spare clothes that you want to be warm the following day, the pillow arrangement will help heat them up, but alternatively you can stuff them into the bottom of your sleeping bag and that will make them nice and toasty when you get into them the next morning. My third top tip works really well if you have the same sleeping bag as me or something similar that has a zip on the inside, a zipped pocket that is not just part of the main zip of the sleeping bag. In that zip pocket is a really good place to put your phone so it doesn't get cold and will still work and the battery life will be extended for the following day. If you like this video, please do subscribe to my channel, and if you've got any other helpful tips or comments that you think would benefit others, please do share them in the comments below. I would love to hear them, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching.